Which is the one you think is the most compelling argument for non-theism? Is that the problem of evil?
Yeah, it probably is. I mean, there's a huge collection of arguments from evil, and a variety of them, I think, have something going for them. I mean, maybe something like evolutionary animal suffering. Like we know that there
Yeah.
have been hundreds of millions of years of animals ripping each other to shreds. Uh, if that's something we'd expect like a perfect, all-loving being to do, kind of built into its very creative activity of making biological diversity in general and humans in particular, that it would kind of like orchestrate things so that like animals are ripping each other to shreds and like tearing each other apart for hundreds of millions of years, and causing each other immense suffering. Is that what we'd expect under theism? It doesn't seem like it. Um, it seems actually extraordinarily surprising by my lights, whereas under a kind of more naturalistic view of reality, it doesn't seem nearly as surprising. So that would, I mean, that pulls on me. I think that's a pretty powerful argument. And there are different ways of running these sorts of arguments. Some are maybe more Bayesian, which is how I was just running it. Like we compare the predictions of the hypotheses. Others are, you can run them in different ways. So I would say it's at least the general class of arguments from evil. And then maybe if you want my view about which is the most plausible or maybe the most forceful version of that class of arguments, it's going to be the sort of evolutionary animal suffering, probably.
Yeah. Um, there are some people who try to address that, like John Hick was someone who did that, and even if you claim that we are here to evolve spiritually, to overcome our incapabilities, and that's why we need evil. Why does the animals need to suffer so much for a particular class of animal to evolve
Right.
themselves?
Right, and this is why I mean, at least a lot of the maneuvers that theists typically wield in response to the problem of evil aren't available to the version that I just leveled. Like animals, like a lot oftentimes people appeal to soul building or like character growth. Like hey, it's precisely by experiencing various evils that we can build our character in various ways. We can become courageous, and we can have fortitude, and we can forgive other people, and we can manifest these virtues, which I grant seem to be pretty valuable. But like for hundreds of millions of years, we just have animals, preying on one another, parasitizing one another, languishing, suffering, starving. Um, it doesn't seem like they're growing their character, like it's not like the pig is like, oh yes, I'm going to grow in my character as a result of the suffering. They don't do that. So this kind of character growth or soul building doesn't seem like it's available in this case. Now, some people try to spin fancy stories on which it can be available, but those are
Yeah.
a bit implausible. But we don't need to go into that. I mean, and like free will, it doesn't seem like the line is exercising kind of morally significant freedom and like crunching down on the neck of the gazelle.
Yeah.
And even if it were, that doesn't seem valuable enough to justify, this atrocious suffering. So, like, a lot of the appeals that at least many theists make in response to at least standard formulations of the problem of evil seem unavailable when we focus on maybe this more poignant version.
Right. Do you have an indication of paper for our viewer to access this formulation specifically of the argument from evil that you could indicate?
Yeah, so Paul Draper has, I mean, I think he's probably got the best work on the problem of evil. He's got a lot of stuff on just the problem of evil in general, but also like evolutionary animal suffering.
Yeah.
I think he's got a paper from 2012 called Darwin's Argument from Evil. That's available in Yuji Nagasawa's 2012 edited book, Scientific Approaches to Philosophy of Religion by Palgrave Macmillan. That's sort of where I was kind of introduced to this. Now, Draper has other papers that are relevant. So, I mean, people just like try to find like the Paul Draper's Phil Papers profile. So, Phil Papers, PHILPAPERS.org. It's like a repository of philosophy papers. And then you can also search authors on there. And so you can search Paul Draper
All right.
on there, and you can find a lot of Paul Draper's papers. But the one that I just mentioned is at least a good start.
All right, everyone. I'll put the link in the description, both for this paper and for Joe's profile as well.
Yeah,
So,
one thing about this paper, I mean, I should say it's a chapter in a book, so it might be hard to find. I mean, I think it actually might be available, the chapter on Google Books. I think that chapter specifically, you might be able to find it online. So anyway, you'll do your searching. If you can't find the paper itself or the chapter itself, you can just put a link to buy the book in the description.
Yeah, yeah, that sounds ethical, even though the price doesn't often sound as much,
Right.
especially in different countries. Anyway,
Right.